Jake Paul, YouTuber turned boxer, the man who shook up the boxing world with his brash persona and surprising wins. But now, after a highly anticipated showdown with the legendary Mike Tyson, he's facing the unthinkable, a suspension. Was this decision justified, or is it another twist in Jake Paul's controversial journey? In a bout that had all the makings of a blockbuster spectacle, Tyson, despite showing glimpses of his old self in a furious opening round, began to tire. As the fight progressed, Jake, leveraging his youth and stamina, capitalized on the opportunity to dominate the later rounds and ultimately take the win. The fight, held at the iconic stadium in Texas, was a historic event drawing an unprecedented crowd. It became the highest-grossing combat sportsgate in Texas history, with fans flocking to witness the clash of two wildly different eras. For Tyson, this marked his first professionally sanctioned fight since his infamous loss to Kevin McBride in 2005. At 58, he wanted to prove he still had the fire to step into the ring. But Jake Paul, 31 years his junior, proved that age and perhaps strategy was on his side. However, the aftermath of the fight was far from celebratory. Jake Paul, who made his professional boxing debut just a few years ago in 2020, has been keeping himself busy in the ring ever since. The young American has already carved out quite a name for himself with victories over well-known figures like Anderson Silva, Tyrone Woodley, Nate Diaz, and Ben Aaron. His only loss came at the hands of Tommy Fury last year, a moment that added some fire to his desire for more. The much-anticipated fight at Cowboy Stadium wasn't just a win for Paul. It was a moment that filled the stadium with electricity. The fight itself, held in front of nearly 70,000 spectators, reached far beyond the arena with millions more tuning in via Netflix. Netflix won Jake Paul, won Mike Tyson, won by not getting embarrassed. Not getting knocked down seems like it was all an elaborate plan. When the final bell rang, signaling the end of their 8th round battle, both fighters showed a tremendous amount of respect and sportsmanship. Despite the intensity of the contest, they shared a moment of mutual admiration, exchanging hugs and handshakes in front of the massive crowd and global audience. It was a rare sight in boxing where egos and rivalries often take center stage. But on this occasion, the respect between the two men was evident. But this made people angry as they felt it was all staged and a total waste of time. Tyson's return to the ring wasn't just about personal pride, despite the years of rust and doubts about his age. Tyson held his ground during the fight. Though it was clear that his prime was long behind him, the legendary boxer still proved to be a formidable presence, showing flashes of the power and technique that made him a global icon in the 80s and 90s OS. But in the end, it was Paul's youth and stamina that gave him the edge. And despite Tyson's best efforts, the 31-year age gap was simply too much to overcome. As the fight was officially sanctioned by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, it came with strict guidelines to ensure the safety of both fighters. These rules were implemented to give both Paul and Tyson a mandatory recovery period before stepping back into the ring. Because the match between Paul and Tyson was officially sanctioned, it wasn't just a friendly exhibition. We counted on both of their professional boxing records. With that official status came certain regulations, specifically about how much rest each fighter has to take after the bout. Guidelines are pretty straightforward but also rigid. For every round fought, both fighters must rest for 3 days. Since the Paul Tyson fight went a full 8 rounds, it means both fighters are required to sit out for a minimum of 24 days to let their bodies heal up and recover before they can even think about stepping back into the ring. Now, when you think about Mike Tyson, it's easy to imagine him as the indestructible force of nature he was in his prime. But this fight was a huge comeback for Tyson, especially considering the health scare he had just a few months prior. Back in May, Tyson had a pretty terrifying medical emergency while flying from Los Angeles to Miami. During the flight, he passed out and upon regaining consciousness, found himself vomiting blood. After being rushed to the hospital, Tyson was kept for 11 days and had to undergo a shocking 8 blood transfusions just to get his body back to working order. So when Tyson finally stepped back into the ring for the Paul fight, many questioned if the fight should even go on at all. For Jake Paul, the 27-year-old, who has only been in the boxing world for a few years. But he's quickly built up a reputation with a solid 11-1 record. His victory over Tyson at AT&T Stadium in Dallas pushed that record forward, but now after the win, Paul faces a mandatory rest period as well. The fight itself, which was a major milestone for Netflix as their first ever live boxing match, was a big deal in terms of entertainment, but it also meant both fighters were bound by professional boxing rules. The regulatory body has these strict rules to keep the sport safe, especially given the intensity of a full 8-round bout. The idea behind the mandatory rest isn't just to prevent overexertion, it's also about ensuring that fighters are medically cleared to continue competing without putting their health in jeopardy. After the fight, both Paul and Tyson will undergo medical evaluations to make sure they haven't sustained any serious injuries, which is standard practice after a professional bout. But was Tyson even fit to fight in the face place? Just months after his health scare, Jake Paul has found himself at the center of growing controversies following his victory over Mike Tyson. The fight itself wasn't just about the 31-year age gap between the two competitors, which some are saying made a huge difference in the outcome. Criticism has been brewing ever since the bout was confirmed, with fans and combat sports insiders voicing their concerns about the match. The fact that Paul at 27 was facing off against a 58-year-old Tyson raised red flags from the start, especially when it became clear that Tyson's age was showing in the ring. By the end of the 8 rounds, Tyson had only landed 18 punches while Paul connected on 78, which painted a clear picture of how one-sided the match was. A significant part of the backlash revolves around the gloves. Some fans and experts have pointed out a noticeable difference in the gloves each fighter was wearing. Tyson's gloves appeared much more padded, leading to concerns that they didn't offer him the same striking power or speed as Paul's. Meanwhile, Jake's gloves, described as puncher's gloves, were seen as more suited for landing heavy blows. While Paul might not have been throwing knockout punches at Tyson, the apparent difference in gloves was seen by some as giving Paul a substantial edge. As much as Tyson's sluggishness was evident, especially as the fight wore on, some couldn't help but feel like Paul was pulling his punches, refraining from delivering a knockout blow to the former heavyweight champion. It was clear to many that Tyson, despite his legendary status, was not in his prime. The question that lingered was whether Paul was actually holding back or simply unable to land a decisive blow against an aging icon. This match, which took place amid heavy scrutiny, didn't just get criticism for the boxing itself, it also raised larger concerns about Tyson's health. Fans were genuinely worried about him stepping back into the ring at the age of 58, fearing that he could be putting himself at risk by fighting a younger, fitter opponent. Some even accused Paul of exploiting Tyson's age for financial gain, suggesting the fight was nothing more than a cash grab. Boxing figures voiced their disappointment, calling it sad to see Tyson, a 2-time world champion, back in the ring under these circumstances. In the aftermath, many fans were vocal about their disgust, with some accusing Paul of being nothing more than a fool for taking on Tyson, calling for him to fight someone fit, healthy, and not a grandfather. There was a strong sense of frustration among those who felt that this whole spectacle was damaging to the sport. The reactions and critiques were harsh, with many declaring that anyone supporting Paul in his choice to face Tyson should take a hard look at themselves. For many, it looked like a step too far for Jake Paul to take on someone like Mike Tyson. What's clear is that the fight has only fueled the debate about what constitutes a fair matchup, and whether Paul should be getting a pass because of his fame outside of boxing. The day after his victory over Mike Tyson, Jake Paul seemed to be already looking ahead to his next big move in the boxing world. While it's still unclear who his next opponent will be, one thing's for sure, it'll likely be someone much more active in the sport than Tyson, who hadn't fought professionally in nearly 2 decades. Paul took a moment to reflect on his bout with Tyson, expressing how honored he was to face off against a fighter with such a massive legacy. He acknowledged Tyson's status as a living legend, calling him the greatest to ever do it, and even went so far as to say he looked up to Tyson. This isn't just about one fight, it's about the future of boxing. Is Jake Paul a disruptor, changing the sport for the better? Or is he a reckless force that boxing needs to control? One thing is clear, love him or hate him, Jake Paul keeps the world talking. What do you think? Was the suspension deserved, or is Jake Paul being unfairly targeted?